Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a look at Christchurch, New Zealand, or Pautahi. It's a city where, every street corner, every mural tells a story of planning, but also tragedy, and this incredible resilience. We're going to skip the usual travel guide stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We're going straight for the core of it. Our mission here is really to understand the tension that defines the place.
Tension, how so?
Well, you have a city designed in the 1850s to be, aggressively English, an Anglo-centric brand, basically transplanted.
Right.
And now it's grappling with and embracing a powerful indigenous identity, all while rebuilding from a massive catastrophe.
So we're connecting the dots from the old architecture inside the Four Avenues to the economic power of the local Maori iwi and Gaitahu.
Exactly.
We've got sources covering 150 years, from Gothic cathedrals to post-Quake street art. It really shows that heritage isn't just what you manage to save.
No, it's about what you choose to build next.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. The sources really hammer this point home. Christchurch was an intentional city.
Completely. It wasn't an organic settlement that just sort of grew.
No, it was founded in the 1850s, laid out as this rigid grid on flat land. The whole idea was to create a perfect Anglican colony replicating Victorian order.
And that intention, that very specific plan, it gave rise to its first architectural golden age. It was almost entirely Gothic revival.
Which makes sense for an Anglican settlement.
It's a perfect fit. And you can't talk about that period without talking about Benjamin Mountfort. His influence is it's everywhere. His main work was between the mid-1860s and mid-1880s, and honestly, a huge chunk of the city's significant Victorian buildings are his.
But the city didn't just stay Gothic, right? The sources show this architectural restlessness.
That's a great way to put it. They started sampling everything.
Like Italianate, Tudor Beathen, Queen Anne Revival, and then Art Deco. It's like an aesthetic smorgasbord. Did they just get bored?
I think it shows a lot of confidence, actually. The local architects were connected to global trends, but they are also really pragmatic.
Pragmatic how?
Well, take the West Avon Flats from 1936. It's a beautiful, restrained Art Deco building. But the key thing is, it was built in reinforced concrete.
So even back then, there was an awareness of
Seismic consciousness, exactly. Long before the quakes we all know about, they were thinking about how to build for their environment.
That structural awareness feels like a really important thread. You mentioned Mountfort's era as the first peak. The sources point to a second golden age, right? Modernism.
Yes, from the mid-1950s to the early 70s. And that era was completely dominated by Sir Miles Warren and his partner, Maurice Mahoney.
And their brutalist phase, specifically.
That's right. And here's where this story gets really interesting. There's what you could call a ribbon of design talent connecting Mountfort's Victorian work all the way to Warren's concrete modernism.
A genealogical design consciousness, I think one source called it.
That's the one. Even when they were building these, stark concrete brutalist buildings, which can seem pretty harsh, they would subtly reference the old neo-Gothic stone buildings of the past.
How would they do that?
Little things, maybe minor decorative elements, or what they called pointy bits, a nod to the old Gothic spires, but in concrete.
Okay, so you're describing this city that's deeply aware of its own architectural history.
Incredibly so.
So how do we square that with the fact that the 2010 and 2011 earthquakes destroyed so many of those historic buildings? It feels like such a contradiction.
It is. It's the central tragedy of the whole story.
Right.
The loss was felt so acutely because the city was so conscious of its history.
Right.
I mean, the restoration efforts have been heroic. The Great Hall at the Arts Center, Christ's College Dining Hall, they're magnificent.
Yeah.
But you also have these irreplaceable losses.
Like the Cathedral of the Blessed Sacrament.
The dome on that cathedral was an explicit reference to the Duomo in Florence. Its loss was. It was a cultural amputation. There's no other word for it.
So what's the city like now? What's being built in those empty spaces? I know there's been some controversy.
The landscape now is a mix of, remaining gaps and new construction. And yes, the main criticism is aimed at the rash of tilt slab concrete and glass buildings.
For anyone listening who doesn't know the term, what is that?
It's a construction method. You basically prefabricate the wall panels flat on the ground, and then you tilt them up into place.
So it's fast.
It's very fast, modular, and cheap. You let them rebuild quickly, but often. Well, the aesthetic quality gets sacrificed for speed and cost. It's what happens when practicality just overwhelms that heritage consciousness for a while.
Okay, so that brings us to another huge piece of the modern identity, the indigenous roots.
You can't talk about Christchurch today without it. The chaos of the rebuild, in a strange way, created an opening to finally center the indigenous identity in the city's design.
The city was built on a place that already had a name, Tautahi.
And that name belongs to the Aleks.tourist, the central iwi, or tribe of the region. They were there long before the English grid was imposed on their land.
Their whole way of life was centered on the rivers, like the Chrichurch, which is now the Avon, and the wetlands.
Absolutely, that's where they got their food eels, fish, and important resources like hurricane, the flax they used for weaving. It was everything.
This leads us to a really pivotal moment in the city's history, a huge injustice.
It does. We have to talk about Kemp's deed in 1848.
This is where Aleks.tourist ceded around 20 million acres of land to the crown.
Yes, and in return, they were promised compensation and, crucially, large reserves of land so they could maintain access to their traditional areas.
And most of those promises
were broken, dishonored. That unmet debt became what's known as Tikaram the Claim. It became the longest-running grievance in New Zealand's history.
And it took nearly 150 years to resolve.
An incredible amount of time. The resolution finally came with the Aleks.tourist Claim Settlement Act of 1998. It was a monumental shift.
So that involved money, but also cultural redress, right? Like restoring traditional place names.
Yes, and it led to the creation of Aleks.tourist Holdings. And this is the key point for understanding the city today.
How so?
Because that cultural weight now has real economic and political power behind it. Aleks.tourist Holdings is a massive economic force in the South Island.
So they're not just being observed as part of the history anymore.
Not at all. They are active co-designers of the city. They have a say in major projects, making sure new designs incorporate their values, their stories. So their culture, Kapahaka, Tamoko, Wakairo, it's not just on the side. It's central to the city's identity.
And for you, the listener, if you want to connect with this, there are real, authentic ways to do it.
There really are. You can experience a puri, a traditional welcome ceremony, at a place like Willowbank Wildlife Reserve.
Or find craft workshops at the Art Center. And you have to try the food. A traditional hangi cooked in an earth oven.
Places like FUH are making it modern and accessible. This isn't a museum piece. It's a living, breathing, successful part of the city's modern identity.
And that energy, that post-quake momentum, feeds right into the city's art scene. Christchurch became famous as the street art capital of New Zealand.
It almost had to. It was a way of coping, of filling those empty, demolished spaces with color and life and meaning again.
There are some iconic pieces.
Oh, definitely. Findee's mural, Kaitiaki, on the YMCA building. It blends stencil art with Maori mythology, this guardian figure watching over the city.
There's Decipher's cosmic mural, too, and Chimp's organic matters near the Justice Precinct with the native birds.
Yes, using the Tuian riflemen to bring nature back into that very concrete space.
And it's not static, is it? The art is always changing.
The giant spray cans at Roar Park are the perfect example. 3 are permanent pieces, but 5 others are just free-for-all canvases. It keeps the scene dynamic.
The entertainment scene has gone through a similar rebirth. The inner city was hollowed out.
All the old pubs and clubs struggled. So the solution was really tactical. They created these specialized venues, these social anchors, to draw people back into the city center and make it feel alive again.
Right, so if you're feeling competitive, there's a whole list of places to go.
You've got Dice and Slice with pizza and over 250 board games.